The foolish man destroys himself by giving in to adultery. Wise man, this is not a conversation to condemn. It is a call to lucidity and honor. It is a moment to rest your thoughts. Teaching so that a man who fears God treats his desires as he treats a treasure, with guard, with purpose, with reverence. Let us open the Bible in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 32, and let the word shine a light upon our path. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. I tell you, this is the promise of God that will guide our entire journey today. Lust promises pleasure, but it charges with life. It seduces the eyes, but wounds the soul. And that is why, if you love truth, you must learn to recognize the seed of ruin before it takes root. Before we go further, quiet your mind and allow your heart to breathe. You may have come from heavy days, difficult decisions, temptations that seemed small but drained energy, peace, and focus. Here the rhythm is different. We will walk slowly, with clarity, and without performing for anyone. We will have biblical readings interwoven with guidance for work, finances, discipline, and relationships. We will also have moments of prayer, because what I say is not only ancient counsel, it is living direction for now. And so that the experience is complete, I will lead each reading as if I were right by your side. Do not be alarmed, but from now on I will speak to you as if I were King Solomon himself. It is a resource of immersion, so that wisdom does not remain distant, so that you may feel the weight and sweetness of the counsel as if I were your advisor, all based on the Word of God. I will pray for you before we open the following passages. Lord, author of purity and source of all wisdom, grant this man a clean heart and the fear that guards his steps. Grant dominion over passions and over sexual desire, so that each impulse may be ordered toward love and not deceit. Pour out holy joy in marriage, renew tenderness in the marriage bed, rekindle conversation in the home. Set focus on work and prudence in finances, so that prosperity may be clean and lasting. May the name of this household be honored before the Lord and before men. May today bring repentance without shame and firm decisions without harshness. In your name I ask, Amen. I want to begin by illuminating the context that surrounds our principle. Let us open the Bible in Proverbs chapter 6 from verse 20 to 29 and walk verse by verse with me. I wrote, My son, keep your father's command and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Bind them always on your heart. Fasten them around your neck. What I meant was that the word ties the heart so that the feet do not slip. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. The instruction is a lamp and correction is the way of life, and it preserves you from the immoral woman, from the smooth talk of the seductress. Do not lust after her beauty in your heart, nor let her captivate you with her eyes. For by means of a prostitute a man is reduced to a loaf of bread, and the adulteress preys upon his very life. I describe the scene that begins at dusk. Seduction approaches when vigilance slackens, but the word lights the room, shows the door, and points the way. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Or can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched? So is he who goes in to his neighbor's wife. Whoever touches her will not go unpunished. I was not exaggerating. I was describing the logic of fire. First it warms, then it consumes. I will continue on the same page and read with you Proverbs chapter 6 from verse 30 to 35. I recorded that if a thief steals to satisfy his hunger when he is starving, men sometimes tolerate him. Yet when caught, he must pay dearly. But with adultery, the damage is not only material. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. Blows and disgrace are his lot, and his shame will never be wiped away. For jealousy arouses a husband's fury, and he will show no mercy when he takes revenge. He will not accept any compensation. He will refuse a bribe, however great it is. What I wanted to emphasize here is simple and hard. The hungry theft affects possessions. Adultery wounds honor and ignites fire in the heart. There is no price that can buy back trust. There is no gift that can erase the mark. The bill that lust delivers cannot be paid in coins. It charges respect. It charges peace. It charges the future. If these words are already beginning to order your thoughts, make this encounter a habit and not an event. Click like right now and subscribe to this channel, not by impulse, but as a silent commitment between you and God. Here we will cultivate what sustains a wise man. Here we will practice what establishes a man who fears God. Today we will begin a journey of contrast. On one side, lust that drains honor, focus, and wealth. On the other, fidelity that plants peace and prosperity. And at the end you will know why rejoicing in the wife of your youth is not only poetry, it is spiritual strategy and practical wisdom for prospering. Lust drains honor, focus, and wealth. Fidelity plants peace and prosperity. Let us now open the word in Proverbs chapter 5, from verse 1 to 14. I said, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ear to my words of insight. For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. I showed you that the man who follows her path does not know where it leads. Her ways are unstable, and he walks far from life. When that man awakens, he has already given his honor to others, his years to the cruel one. Strangers have feasted on his wealth, and his labor has ended up in another's house. And at the end, with groaning in his heart and body consumed, he says, 'How I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction.' Man who fears God, see that lust not only wounds the soul, it drains vigor, wealth, and peace of heart." I will now go to Ecclesiastes chapter 2 from verse 1 to 11. I said to myself, "Come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good." But this too was meaningless. I undertook great projects. I built houses, planted vineyards, made gardens and parks, amassed silver and gold, and the treasure of kings. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. I, Solomon, who tasted all pleasures and riches, tell you, the wise man understands that pleasure without purpose is empty. The brilliance of achievements without the fear of God is like sand slipping through the fingers. And now I wish to read with you Song of Songs, chapter 4, from verse 9 to 15, and then chapter 5, verse 1. I said to my beloved, "You have stolen my heart with one glance of your eyes. You are a garden locked up, a spring enclosed. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with choice fruits." And then I declared, "I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk." Wise man perceive, love within the covenant is a fruitful garden. It is a pure spring and rest for the soul. There is no shame, no ruin, but joy and prosperity. Lust is like an open pit that consumes resources, time, and energy. When a man gives himself to it, he loses focus at work and opens breaches in his finances. He spends in secret, makes impulsive decisions, enters debts he cannot justify. The unguarded gaze is like an open vault in a public square. Man who fears God, I tell you, Manage your gaze as one who guards a treasure. Care for your mind as one who watches the storehouse where his family's grain is kept. The wise man does not live putting out fires of his own recklessness. He creates routines of holiness that protect his earnings. Set times, clean environments, digital filters. He does not expose himself to danger after the workday. He builds walls of discipline that preserve his prosperity. Pleasure without purpose steals the meaning of work and empties worship. The man who seeks satisfaction in illicit pleasures returns home empty, without strength to pray, without joy to work, without vision for legacy. I, Solomon, tell you, he who fears the Lord finds rest. Pleasure outside the covenant promises much but delivers only dust. Therefore I counsel you to practice fasting from the curiosity of the eyes. Close for a time the gates that distract you. Set goals of Bible reading and brief prayers at the beginning and end of each task. Thus your mind will be quiet, your eyes aligned, and your heart will find the rest that sin never gives. I want you now to walk with me in Proverbs chapter 7, from verse 6 to 23. I described from my window the scene of the young man lacking sense. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the twilight, in the dark of night. There a woman met him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She took hold of him and kissed him, and with a brazen face she said, "Today I fulfilled my vows, and I have food from my fellowship offering at home." She invited him to her bed, perfumed with myrrh and cinnamon, promising kisses and pleasure. And so he followed her, like an ox going to the slaughter, till an arrow pierced his liver. I wanted to show you with this metaphor that lust does not only wound outwardly, it pierces the innermost being, drains life, and corrodes a man's strength. I will now move to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 9 and 10. I wrote, "You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see, but know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment." So I exhorted, banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body. Wise man, pleasure without fear is a flame without a fireplace. It burns and consumes. It neither warms nor illuminates. But pleasure within the covenant is a flame protected. It warms the house and sustains the home. And I will also read Song of Songs, chapter 7, from verse 10 to 13. The bride declares, "I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me." And she invites him to the fields, to the vineyards where the mandrakes blossom. There she would give him her love. See well, man who fears God. Mutual desire within the covenant is celebration and not guilt. It is a source of holy joy and not condemnation. I told the story of the foolish man so that you may choose the joy that the covenant grants. There are those who say that fidelity is boredom. I, however, affirm fidelity is safe creativity. The faithful home is a place of counsel, partnership, and protection. A marriage without betrayal is a space of invention. Wise man, invest in weekly encounters with your wife, a simple dinner, an honest conversation, a prayer before bed, a planning of the home. These are small seeds that blossom into great harvests. The schedule protects affection. Reserved time guards the flame, and the heart renews itself in trust. Reputation is an asset. It is like a wall that protects the city. The man who preserves honor opens doors, wins clients, strengthens alliances. He who stains his name sees doors close, even when his hands still have vigor. I tell you, man who fears God, guard your eyes, guard your steps, guard your schedule, and guard your alliances. These four pillars sustain the house and preserve the future. He who watches over honor reaps peace. He who guards reputation reaps prosperity. And he who fails in this point even if he has silver, will find himself poor in trust. Integrity is the most valuable insurance a man can possess. Wise man. Before we continue, I want you to allow yourself a pause for communion. Close your eyes now, wherever you are. Breathe deeply and surrender to the Lord those areas where your eyes have faltered, perhaps digital distractions, perhaps conversations that seem innocent, perhaps a recurring thought you can no longer control. Do not fight against this alone. Lay it before God. If you wish, pause this video for a while. You may also write in the comments your name with a prayer request. And do not pray only for yourself. Read also the request of another brother and intercede for him. Thus we form a chain of support, an invisible brotherhood strengthened in the presence of God. The man who fears God does not walk alone. He shares the burden. He puts himself in prayer for another and in return receives spiritual sustenance. While this soft music plays, allow the Spirit of the Lord to guard your heart. Surrender now, in silence, any area that needs to be purified. The pause is not a waste of time. It is an investment of faith. It is preparation so that what will come next may find fertile soil in your soul. Rejoice in your wife. Faithful intimacy as a source of energy, counsel, and prosperity. Let us now open in Proverbs chapter 5 from verse 15 to 23. I wrote, "Drink water from your own cistern, running water from your own well. Should your springs overflow in the streets, your streams of water in the public squares? Let them be yours alone, never to be shared with strangers. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth. A loving doe, a graceful deer, may her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated with her love." What I meant to teach is that the legitimate source of joy is in the home. Holy pleasure is exclusive, protected, guarded by the covenant. Why, wise man, would you give away outside the covenant what was given as your inheritance? Faithful intimacy is a wall against shame and a fountain of energy for your days. Stay with me, and let us go to Ecclesiastes chapter 9 from verse 7 to 10. I said, "Go eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart. For God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. For this is your lot in life. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. I tell you, man who fears God, even the simplest bread gains flavor when the heart is at peace. Even hard work becomes light when it turns back to a home full of love." Faithful intimacy not only consoles but strengthens. It renews the joy of dressing with dignity and of working with purpose. Now I want to read with you Song of Songs chapter 2 from verse 3 to 6. I said, "Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. He has taken me to the banquet hall, and his banner over me is love. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me." Wise man, see how intimacy in the covenant is sweetness. It is cool shade in the heat of the day. It is a banquet that restores strength. It is in this space that the heart is revived and the body finds legitimate rest. Just as the water that runs in another man's well is bitter and shameful, so is the pleasure that the foolish seek outside their own home. The man who fears God, however, guards his own fountain and cares for it. He who honors his wife finds in her counsel, energy, and inspiration. He who tries to quench his thirst in foreign rivers always returns drier and more ashamed. But he who cultivates his own well never lacks water. never lacks peace. Faithful intimacy is spiritual discipline. It is practical strength. It is the secret of prosperity. And so that this truth does not remain in the field of poetry, think about the routine. Sound sleep, balanced food, firm work schedules, exercise, and time dedicated to your wife. This too is spiritual. This too is productive. The wise man understands that prosperity is not only a bank account, it is also a vigorous body, a rested mind, and a guarded heart. All of this is born in holy intimacy and in marital care. And there is still a secret that many neglect. A wife's counsel is a lighthouse that prevents shipwreck. Man who fears God, do not harden your ears. The woman who walks with you perceives risks that you, distracted at work, do not notice. That is why I advise you to establish a household council. Sit down every 15 days, talk about finances, career decisions, trips, friendships, digital boundaries. Make this an altar of dialogue. Thus, peace enters through the door, mistakes decrease, and the home becomes a fortress against deceit. Let me now open with you Proverbs chapter 2 from verse 10 to 22. I wrote, "For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Wisdom will save you from the ways of wicked men, and from the adulterous woman, who has left the partner of her youth and ignored the covenant she made before God. Surely her house leads down to death, and her paths to the spirits of the dead. None who go to her return or attain the paths of life. See, man who fears God, the wisdom is not only light for the eyes, but a wall for the feet. It saves from seduction and preserves life." Let us turn back a few pages to the beginning. Genesis chapter 2 from verse 18 to 25. It is written, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." Then the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and made a woman. And Adam declared, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Wise man, understand that the architecture of marriage is divine work. It is not a human contract. It is a holy covenant. To be one flesh is to live without masks, without shame, in trust and counsel. I also want to read in Song of Songs chapter 6 from verse 4 to 10. I said, "You are as beautiful as Tirzah, my darling, as lovely as Jerusalem, as majestic as troops with banners. Turn your eyes from me, they overwhelm me. 60 queens there may be, and 80 concubines, and virgins beyond number, but my dove, my perfect one, is unique. The young women saw her and called her blessed. The queens and concubines praised her." Here I wanted to show that exclusive love gives dignity. The man who fears God does not need many arms. He honors the singularity of his wife. It is in her eyes that he finds counsel and energy to prosper. But vigilance is necessary. There are signs of danger that the foolish often ignore. Seemingly innocent flirting at work, secret conversations, hidden digital exchanges as traps, unfair comparisons with other couples. Wise man, do not play with temptation. Put walls before the abyss. Share passwords, establish transparency covenants, set boundaries for trips and social encounters, and before delicate decisions, bend your knees with your wife and pray. This is the spiritual shield that preserves the home, and there is still the direct effect on prosperity. Faithful intimacy generates stable energy. Guilt corrodes performance, but holy love renews boldness and gives firmness to work. I advise you to sit with your wife every quarter and review your goals. Establish together an envelope of generosity, a reserve of rest, an investment in knowledge. The man who fears God understands that prosperity without purpose is wind, but prosperity shared within the covenant is a clean and lasting inheritance. Self-control, covenant, and legacy. The consecrated gaze sustains the work of your hands. Let us now open in Proverbs chapter 23 from verse 26 to 28. I wrote, "My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes delight in my ways. For a prostitute is a deep pit, and an adulterous woman is a narrow well. Like a bandit she lies in wait and multiplies the unfaithful among men. Wise man, perceive. It is not only the body that is lost in these ways, it is the heart that is scattered. It is the eyes that drift from the fear of the Lord. I told you to give me your heart because I knew. The heart surrendered to God is stronger than any desire. The consecrated gaze sustains the hands that labor." Let us now turn back a few pages to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, from verse 1 to 7. I wrote, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble come, and the years approach when you will say, 'I find no pleasure in them.' Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, before the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men stoop, and the dust returns to the ground it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." What I meant to teach is that one should not wait for old age to align desires. The time is today. Man who fears God, listen well. He who remembers the Creator early plants roots that sustain an entire life. The foolish delays and reaps anguish, but the wise man anticipates and reaps peace. I also want to read with you Song of Songs chapter 5 from verse 2 to 5. I said, "I slept, but my heart was awake." Listen, my beloved is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my flawless one. My head is drenched with dew, my hair with the dampness of the night. I had taken off my robe. Must I put it on again? But my beloved thrust his hand through the latch opening. My heart began to pound for him. I arose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh. See well, wise man, here is the portrait of readiness. Holy intimacy requires quick response. It requires the heart to be awake, even when the body wants to sleep. I taught you that delay opens a gap, but readiness guards love and protects the covenant. Man who fears God, make a covenant with your eyes. Just as Job declared that he would not set before them what would lead him away from the Lord, create a routine of spiritual and digital hygiene. Before turning on your phone or opening your computer, pray and consecrate your gaze. Review what you follow, cut triggers, sleep away from the screen, discipline the hours of access. I tell you, this is as spiritual as fasting. It is a practice of self-control that sustains the soul. And remember, he who fights in secret loses boldness in public. The man who keeps silent about his weakness loses authority over others. But he who confesses before God, speaks honestly with his wife, and seeks counsel from a mentor finds restoration. It is not shame to ask for help. It is wisdom. A wise man is one who recognizes where he stumbles and builds walls before the fall. Let me now open with you Job chapter 31 from verse 1 to 12. I declared, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman. For what is our lot from God above, our heritage from the Almighty on high? If I had been enticed by a woman, that would have been shameful, a sin to be judged. For that would have been wicked, a fire that burns to destruction. It would have uprooted my harvest. Man who fears God, understand. Adultery is fire hidden in the heart. It begins with a spark in the eyes, but advances until it consumes roots and destroys the entire harvest. The covenant with the eyes is protection not only against the fall, but against the loss of all the fruit of labor. Permit me now to read a psalm of my father David. Psalm 128 from verse 1 to 4. He wrote, "Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to him. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. Yes, this will be the blessing for the man who fears the Lord." See, wise man, here is the portrait of clean prosperity. Fruitful work, a wife fertile in love, children as signs of continuity. It is not fleeting fortune, it is solid inheritance. And I want to conclude this reading in Proverbs chapter 31, from verse 10 to 20. I wrote about the virtuous woman, a wife of noble character who can find. She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. Man who fears God, see that the virtuous woman is a business partner, a faithful counselor, a guardian of the home. She multiplies what the husband entrusts, and when the man honors his wife, he himself prospers. Now I want you to see the triangle of legacy: fear of the Lord, self-control, and virtuous partnership. These three sustain not only the house but the memory that is left. That is why I tell you, establish monthly reviews of the budget together, create a night of honor in the family, visit relatives, serve the community. Legacy is not measured only in money, but in generosity that heals selfishness. And so that all this does not remain in the air as distant theory, I want to give you 3 codes that transform the daily life of a wise man into clean prosperity. The first is to have consecrated eyes. This means you must decide what you will allow to enter through your vision. Because what the eyes absorb, the heart desires. Establish a clear routine. Remove digital triggers. Filter what you follow on social networks. And if necessary, ask someone you trust to supervise with you. This is not weakness, it is war strategy. The second code is the surrendered heart. And this surrender is not measured by beautiful words, but by firm habits. Read the word before turning on any screen. Pray before making decisions. Practice regular fasts that discipline the flesh. The surrendered heart is not only sensitive, it is focused, it is trained, it is guarded by the fear of the Lord. And the third code is the house in council. A man who fears God does not decide alone. He shares with his wife, aligns goals together, celebrates small victories, and adjusts the course when necessary. The council at home is the foundation of decisions that prosper outside of it. The solitude of the fool leads to ruin, but shared wisdom generates future. He who lives these 3 codes, guarded eyes, surrendered heart, and house in council, finds 3 precious fruits: peace in the marriage bed, clarity in the mind, and strength in the hands. This is the clean prosperity that the Lord honors. Wise man, let us now take a pause for communion. Close your eyes with me. Allow your heart to rest and surrender to the Lord. Ask Him for firmness to guard your eyes, courage to surrender your heart, and humility to seek counsel at home. Perhaps you have stumbled in hidden areas. Perhaps you are struggling with temptations that seem small but are draining your peace. Do not hide anything from God. Confess in silence, for He searches the mind and knows the secrets. Now, in silence, ask the Holy Spirit for a firm heart. Visualize your life free from the slavery of lust, your home built in faithfulness, your work bearing fruit in clean prosperity. Remain in this prayer, because communion is the bridge that connects what we hear to the practice that transforms. Clean prosperity. Fear the Lord. Rejoice in your wife. Build your house. The central principle has not changed since the first word. The foolish man destroys himself by giving in to lust. But the wise man who fears the Lord finds life in rejoicing in the wife of his youth. Lust is self-sabotage. Fidelity is the road of peace. I showed you that in practice, guarding the eyes and the steps preserves work, finances, and name. I also showed you that in purpose, pleasure outside of reverence is wind, but in the covenant, even the simplest bread has joy. And I revealed that in relationships, conjugal love celebrated is a source of energy, counsel, and longevity. Therefore I summon you, man who fears God. Live with self-control. Rejoice in your wife, work with diligence and honor. Thus your prosperity will be clean and lasting. And to seal this word, take today a practical decision. Make a covenant with your eyes. Arrange an honorable conversation with your wife. Review your routines to shield your home. Do not wait for another day. The time to live as a wise man is now. If this word has found space in your heart, practice it and share this video with another man who needs to remember that fidelity is the shortest road to peace.